if Doug just met you out there and it sometime?
Your microphone might not be working, and my hearing aids aren't either because they're home. I forgot.
Okay.
So,
It might be best if Doug met you at the park and you pointed out these two trees. They look small enough where our staff could probably just zip them down if he's agreeable to that.
well, I just thought we would kind of help out. I know you have a lot
I,
of things going on.
yeah,
in the
I just
city.
think for
Whatever-
liability purposes, we should probably just have city staff do it,
That's why I
but,
said we're willing to sign anything too, but
yeah,
you know,
they look pretty small,
they are small.
yeah. So we'll have Doug connect with you and meet you out there, is that okay?
Well, I hate to force you into something you weren't ready for, but anyway, we were willing to do it.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Carolee. All right. So anybody have any issues with the flagpole that we need to probably cover that at another workshop, or are we good with that?
Looks fine.
Yeah, I think it
think
I
looks
so.
think,
fine.
I think it looks
Doug
good.
seen that?
We just leave it up to Doug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you take a look at that? I don't know where it ended up.
I got it right here.
All right. So we'll move on while Doug's taking a look at that, and we'll go from that. Next up, we have the nuisance update. Who gets to go first? Chief Morrison.
Yeah, we had a couple of new municipal citations written this week. We had 25 new notices that went out from the 15th till today. We had court continued from last week. We had court on Vosburg property on First Street Northwest that got continued out, but we're still working with him on trying to get some of that stuff taken care of. Other than that, I don't have anything unless there's questions. I think he has more to add. And we'll take questions at the end.
Yep, we had 4 more other notices out of my department that went out. 2 were regarding swimming pools. A couple others were property related. Had 1 court case last week that was dismissed due to the problems being abated. Not necessarily to my liking, but they were abated nonetheless, and we moved forward. Mowing notices are still outgoing. Grass season, grass is kind of really slowed down, but the weeds are still growing, so it's still kind of giving us a few issues here and there. Staff worked on cleanup prior to a court order in the southwest, I believe down on 8th Avenue, and that got taken care of. There was a change of ownership in that property, that things happened really quick, so, but we did get it cleaned up. And then I think staff boarded up a couple more houses that needed some more boarding, so. Other than that, I guess entertain any questions or concerns you guys may have.
Any questions for Chief Morrison or Mr. Tar? No? I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next time, we have the PFM to get an engagement letter. We're going to have Matt Stoffel to kind of give us a briefing on this one. You have us, Matt?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I think we got you. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So Ron requested. Oh, I'm hearing an echo. Hold on.
Go ahead, Matt.
Okay. Ron requested an engagement letter to help the city with planning for really the debt service levy and issuance of tax exempt or any debt that you would use property taxes to pay back. And so PFM does this for about 65 cities throughout the state, where we help them with a lot of financial planning ahead of actually committing to issuing any debt. So we would run scenarios, we would build models that help the city understand what's your legal ability to borrow. And then once you do borrow, how would you pay that back? And then what would that do to property taxes? What would that do to the various different revenue sources that the city has at its disposal? So this would be, this would work, we would update and maintain these models. And we do that at a fee of $5,000 a year. That would we included TIF in that because it seems like you have some TIF that might be a good option for payment of some bonds. And a lot of this is coming to light, I think, probably as a result of what the legislature has been doing with the property taxes and starting to drive down, the adjusted city general fund levy. And so there's quite a bit of revenue pressure on the city. So, we're seeing it throughout the state that cities are having to think about their finances a little bit differently, and they'll get a little bit more creative in ways to figure out how to fund even simple things like police cars and equipment, for the fire department, or whatever it is that you're trying to fund. We'll help you think through what are your legal options, and then what are the trade-offs between the various funding mechanisms that the city has at its disposal. So that's, I guess, what's in front of you. The engagement letter, the first 2 or 3 pages essentially just outlines just different things our legal department requires us to say. And then there's a scope of services, which is Exhibit A, and that kind of lists out all of the different things that we would do. And then Exhibit B is the compensation for these services, and then Exhibit C is just our standard insurance certificate. So I guess I'll stop there, Ron, if there's anything that you wanted to add that I didn't say, or just happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
No, that was a good summary. I will just let the council ask any questions they might have. And so my thought was, as after discussion tonight, if the council wishes they want to move forward with this, then we would put it on Thursday's agenda for consideration. So I'll open it up to any questions.
Any questions?
Yes, this is
Mr.
Jim
Davies.
Davies, councilperson. Do you have just a rough estimate or average of how many hours that you've spent, maybe in a community our size, that we would be paying the hourly rate?
We estimated that we could do the work in 25 hours. It's in we have that in Exhibit B.
Okay, I must have missed
A lot of it comes down to how many scenarios, how many projects are you looking at, in terms of the CIP, and then also, one of the things that we're, sensitive to is just how many council meetings we need to drive to and present at. And so we've estimated 25 hours a year is what this would take us.
May I ask another question? Then how many different people is that everyone added together? I'm assuming, and at what rate? I guess just to give us I'm just trying to get a general idea of what the salaries
so
are.
I'm a director, and then on my kind of immediate staff, I have a senior analyst, an analyst, and an associate, or a municipal bond assistant. So I would say probably 50% of it would be me, and then 50% would be kind of time for my staff.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Yep.
I got a couple questions, Ron.
Okay, Barry.
Go ahead.
Who's been doing this before? Have we had someone do some work like this before?
We have, Barry asked who has been doing this before. We have used PFM and Matt prior for this, with work with the wastewater models for the debt for the wastewater, and also for water department modeling, prior to increasing the water rates for anticipated debt. So we have used PFM, Barry.
So, we just got cyber insurance. I was reading through there. Would that be through a different company then?
The cyber insurance, Barry? Yeah,
Yeah.
that was through our property and liability carrier, which is Castle, Dick and Kelch.
Okay. So, where's the $5,000 gonna come from to hire this company? And do we need to budget for it next year?
Yeah, so this current fiscal year, it's not budgeted for, but I would spread that out between various departments. General fund, water and sewer, just because we'll be looking at, other funds. And this is most particularly gonna focus on, debt service fund, which is basically general. And then next year, if we continue on, we would include it in the budget as an annual expense.
What do we have for debt service right now? Just a fire truck?
Oh, for GO debt, right now, we have only the fire truck. And we have no debt service levy. Some of the modeling that PFM would do would be to show for future projects, if, say for instance, we wanted to do street projects that were bigger and more expansive and more costly, that doing a debt service levy to pay for them would be an option. In order to look into the options for debt service levy, we would have to look at the models that Matt's proposing to come up with.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Barry. Sorry about the audio issues.
Any other map questions for Matt? All right, so if we're in agreement on this for PFM, then we're okay to put that on Thursday for action?
Yep.
To get that into save?
Yep.
Everybody's good?
Yep.
All right, consensus says we're on Thursday.
Okay. Matt, we're gonna put this on Thursday's agenda for approval of your engagement letter as you submitted.
Okay, do you need me on the call Thursday?
What do you think, council?
No, I don't think so.
No, I guess
No.
not.
Okay, I'll wait to hear from you on Friday and we'll get to work.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, thank you, Matt.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Mayor,
Yeah.
because it looks like if you just take his rate times 25, that's $7,500 plus the 5,000, so it'd be about 12,500 would be the approximate total cost if you base it on the 25 hours at his $300 an hour plus the 5,000. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice.
All right, any other question, any discussion further on that? Otherwise, we'll put that on Thursday and move forward with that. Next item up is the La Luz has a request for a street closing. Please step to the podium and introduce yourself. I have not met you yet.
Yeah, my name is Georgia Revelo. I'm the new executive director at La Luz. We're just requesting a street closure for this Friday in the street in front of La Luz, just from the stop sign to where our building ends and a little bit of the alley that goes to the side of our building for our block party.
Okay. I'm gonna bring this map up.
And this is for, it's 3 PM to 8 PM
Yep.
for that day, for Friday?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that the same area that was like for the back-to-school party that you had?
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry, just bear with me.
It's all right.
There we go.
There we got it.
Okay, this is your letter requesting 3 to 8. And then your map. You're showing closing off a portion of the alley,
Yep.
and then between Federal and the east side of that alley.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions or comments about that?
How did your back-to-school party go?
Yeah, we had a lot of people come and kids.
Good,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
That driveway that's gonna be blocked, is anyone living in that house?
So Barry asked, the driveway that's gonna be blocked, is there anyone living in that house? Mark, do you know that?
I think if we, the last time that we closed this area for you, and I think it worked out okay, is that didn't we contact that homeowner to just let him know that from this period might be a good idea, just to give them a heads up if we choose to do these, so.
Okay, sounds good.
Because they can actually access it from the north through the alley if
Okay.
they needed to
Okay.
for your the period of time you're looking at. So, any other questions?
Mark, do you have any concerns?
No, yeah, maybe just a future thing.
Just for the benefit of the Zoom and YouTube. Sorry.
No, it looks good. Last time, I think it went well without a hitch. The only thing I do show a little bit of concern about is the closing of the alley. A lot of times, people see, hey, what's going on there? They pull down in there, and then there's no outlet for them to get out. So then they're doing a 15-point turn, trying to get turned around to go back out there. So at least if the alleys are open, then they can go south or north. It looks like maybe the one to the north is open. As long as we keep that open, I don't see a concern. Just for future reference, maybe. It'd be better to have both of them. But
Yeah, or you have items, you're gonna have things in the alley as part of your event, or is that gonna basically be out in front of the building?
We were thinking of adding some vendors there, but then we decided last minute to just have them inside instead. So there's actually nothing going to be in the alley. It's just going to be in the front street.
Okay, so would be possible to just leave that alley open?
Yeah.
It's of course with
Yeah, we could leave
make
the
sure
alley
that-
open.
So
Yeah.
as long as it's marked well, so that if people know goes screaming in there for you, so.
Yeah. Yep, we can leave the alley open. That's not a problem.
So is there any objections to the closure of this street for Friday night? Not hearing any?
I was just going to say, the Windsor garages are on the other end, and we haven't had any problems with that. The only other business on the alley there that would be the auto repair shop, which usually has a ton of vehicles parked back there anyway. So, but I don't have any problem with it.
Okay.
So we'll put this on for Thursday
Yeah.
for approval.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you.
All right, next item up is speeding concerns on Second, Third, give me a minute, 6th Street Southwest. Mr. Morrison.
yep, 6th Street South West. The police department has received numerous speeding complaints and concerns from Miss Amber Rogers over the past couple of years. She's also reached out to Councilman Palmer and asked it to be discussed at the council meeting or workshop. I reached out to her early last week just to kind of get an idea of what specifically she is requesting. She did send out an email, and it should be in everybody's packet. Don't know if you had a chance to read it, but one was a stop sign where on the corner of 6th Street Southwest and 9th Avenue Southwest. She says this will be a perfect place for a stop sign as it will deter those who are turning from the trailer park and punching it, or those who are flying down the road from 140th. This will require them to stop, which in turn means they have to slow down. 2 speed bumps would be awesome, she says. However, we would know that they would only be temporary, and we need something permanent. So we leave that to you if you feel both would be necessary. Personally, I feel the stop sign would be better option. And number 3 is extra patrol. So then I sent out kind of what our response has been to those. The measures that we have taken: officers have conducted extra patrol on 6th Street Southwest. Officers have conducted extra patrol on given times that she has given us. We put up 25-mile-an-hour speed signs facing north and south of the complainant's residence. We don't typically have speed signs on the residential streets. We placed the speed trailer on 6th Street Southwest in multiple locations and times. We contacted specific drivers. She has pointed out if she says there's a habitual violator, we've talked to them. We proposed the automatic traffic cameras for this location, but that was no longer an option. We checked the traffic crash data. We also contacted the DOT engineering operations, Mike Fank, and contacted DOT traffic tech, Craig Wood. I don't think I put the traffic data on your packet, but I did run that. Over the last 3 years, there's been 4 accidents on all of 6th Street Southwest, and just a quick rundown of what those were. One was hit a parked vehicle. One was, the only one that was at an intersection was on 5th Avenue Southwest and 6th Street Southwest. It was actually a vehicle who ran the stop sign and hit another vehicle. Then there was one in the 700 block of 6th Street Southwest, which was in a medical emergency, lost consciousness and hit a vehicle, and then another one where a parked car was hit. At the location where the stop signs are requested, there were 0 accidents at that intersection or in the block over the last 3 years. And then I will remind you, I think there's an email from Councilman Davies, I think that all of you have. I was just going to remind you of what was said during that discussion of the same type of incident in the southeast. At the time, the consensus of the members of the 2021 council were to have the police department increase traffic patrol in the area, contact Franklin County to use the speed trailer, which we have our own now, issue a media press release of the matter, and have the neighbors continue to alert the police department of their concerns. I will let you know, I will have Doug right now come up and speak to what the engineer, DOT engineer, had to say, and the traffic correspondent.
Thank you. Yeah, when all this come about, we posted some questions to Mike Frank that works at the DOT, and then also Craig Wood, who's a traffic tech, that gave a response. Found it kind of interesting. Of course, as we've talked about before with stop sign placement, the DOT doesn't believe that yield or stop signs should be used for controlling speed. And then later in this response, it was really interesting. You know, you can actually do a speed study on something of this nature, but actually posting a slower speed typically will result in more crashes, as some drivers will follow the posted speed where some will not, and drive to the conditions of the difference in speed actually causes more crashes. That's why they have a reason for a speed study on certain things like this. But, you know, we're just trying to give you guys the most information that we possibly can. DOTs, we've been trying a lot of different things down there. I know that. I know Mark and the guys have been trying really hard, and it kind of is what it is. It's just our job to give you guys what the facts are, you know. So if you want to move forward with a speed study or something of that nature, you'll have to let us know.
Mr. Palmer?
The speed trailer that we have, does that have the Bluetooth in it so we can get speeds on that?
Yeah, I can get it set up down there. We've done that once before. I don't remember where, I could pull the data to see what it was before. But yeah, we can, I can clear it out, reset it,
Right.
and then we can track, it'll do traffic count and speeds.
Right. Does she feel, and I didn't get this from her, I assumed from what she'd said, the speed was greater when we were going down the street headed to 140th than it was from 140th coming into town.
When I've talked to her in the past, that's what I've gathered, but in her email, it sounded like from 140th. But,
Okay, all right.
but we can do both ways.
Okay.
It does both ways.
She mentioned people coming from the trailer park
Yes.
and heading south.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mark, have you issued any tickets there?
I looked back over the last year and I only saw one citation. To be honest with you, I didn't dig that deeply. I was kind of putting it all together into a hurry at the last minute today to make sure I had everything. But no, I did not go beyond that.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
I'd like to see a speed study done. Because, you know, a lot of times, cars look like they're going faster than they
Right.
actually are. So I'd like to see really what is the,
Is there a
Yeah.
large cost to something like that?
I
for-
have never been a part of that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we haven't done one since I've been here, but I can get that information for you and bring it to a future meeting, just so you kind of know what we're in for.
Yeah, because some of those things are hidden costs that would be,
They can be expensive.
Yes.
Yep, any study at all can,
Yeah.
Well, to what end?
Yeah.
You know, if we're going to be doing the same things anyway, what's the difference whether we actually know that or not if we're implementing all the steps that Chief Morrison said?
I think it's important to have the facts when we're responding to the citizens. She says, I don't mean to be ungrateful or rude. I wish when I brought this up years ago, we could have done something rather than waiting till now and it's out of control. I want to know, is it really out of control?
Isn't
You know, that was something we did find out with the traffic down there. We had different people running radar. Well, what you think is just burning down the road is 17 miles an hour. And I know the police went down there, and I think they give
Yep.
Dick Lukensmeyer a radar gun. He went down there for a while,
I
and
know I spent a couple hours down there.
what looks like, you know, you're just a silver bullet is 23. You know, and it just depends on your perspective. But that's why I would really like the speed cameras there.
Bluetooth,
To at least get the Bluetooth.
Yeah, maybe
info.
we can start with that.
Yeah.
I'll get that
Yeah, I think
cleared,
that would
see
be
what
the-
the traffic counts are and
Yeah,
what the
that-
speeds are over a
yeah.
2-week period, and then we can, in the meantime, I'll see.
I can see how
The
much
cost.
a
Just
professional
estimate, yeah.
would cost.
At least, you know,
Yeah,
push the idea forward just to get an estimate on it, just to see what,
yeah. See what we got, see what we're working with. I like the counts. We need to see how many cars we're talking about, you know?
and she does have
And stuff like that, so.
stop signs on the end of each block at
Yes.
her block. So I agree that, you know, that's what makes most all the Third Avenues in town raceways, is because everybody blocks, there's stop signs on every road up to Third Avenue, so they can fly down my road too. But again, if you held up a camera, they might be doing 26.
Exactly,
But it looks fast,
yeah.
but it'd be good for the, I'd just like to start with that.
Yeah, I think we got to still with something that we have.
Yeah.
And money-wise, but if we start with that, and then Doug can get us some information on
Yep.
what that would
It's up
entail
to-
to do a speed study, then we could move forward with something like that.
It's up at the school right now, but we'll get it moved over
Sure.
in the next few days.
Any other discussion?
Now, how is speeding up by the high school?
We'll have the same type of complaints about that. The day they put up the road closed sign, we started getting all kinds of complaints from the Federal North.
Right.
Even today I got some, but we have been going there at times where school's coming in and leaving. Officer Captain Halsey went up there. He stopped 3 or 4 cars going into the school last week, Thursday. And then we've been staying up there all week. Every day we've been up there trying to get them to slow down. They announced it at the school too, so. But it has been an issue.
Good news is they're moving on the water main, so.
Good. Well, that's good.
Every they get closer and closer, we'll get past this
Eventually,
piece too.
federal will be blocked, won't it?
Briefly.
Yeah, then they'll come up the highway.
Yeah. People won't notice as much there.
All right, so that sounds like we have a plan to kind of look at, put some things in place and take a look at some stuff for Miss Rogers, and we'll move forward. Anything else from you, Mr. Dunt?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you both for your
Yeah,
input.
thank you.
That's very helpful. Next item. He's already there, Mr.
Yes.
Chief Morrison for the
I stayed in place.
vicious dogs.
Well, I think we'll start with the dog ordinances first. I know there were some concerned citizens that came to a workshop earlier and shared their concerns with dogs. And our response to that was looking at possible dog ordinances. I know two of them that kind of came to the top of the pile were tethering dogs and also microchipping. We're still researching other stuff that came up, but these are the two that I think we were kind of ready for to present to you guys. One of the possible ordinances was the tethering ordinance. That should be in all your packets. I don't know if you had time to look that over. I can kind of go over that if you want, unless you've already read it.
You can just summarize it for the
Yeah, just
audience.
summarize.
Yeah, so no owner or responsible person shall have an animal to be tethered with a rope or chain, anything less than 10 feet or more than 50 feet. You can't use certain types of collars containing metal or chain, and then it kind of goes through some other things there. No person shall allow an animal to have access to public sidewalk or street when tethered. No person shall be allowed the animal to be tethered at a utility pole, parking meter, fence, structure, while on public property. And no person shall allow an animal to be tethered in a manner that allows it to become entangled with another tethered animal. And I reviewed those over several cities. I didn't find a ton of cities that had these tethering laws, but there was kind of I took the best of what I could see and put it on there.
Aren't there isn't there a state tethering ordinance or law?
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, when somebody was complaining about the animal that I talked to you about, I did look that up. There is something in the state. And it has to do with being able to reach their food and their water and the number of hours and the shelter and.
We already have in our city ordinance the food, shelter, water. That's why I didn't add it into this one.
Okay.
But I'm not aware of any state one. I can look it up.
I think I just went to the state of Iowa and typed in what I was looking for and can't remember how I got there. But
Yeah, I can look that up. I know they changed they came out with a bunch of new stuff, and it mainly pertained to grooming, but I can look it up.
Any other question, any other discussion on the tethering?
I've seen dogs get tangled up before, and that's a mess.
Mm-hmm.
And possible fight.
Yep. So do we have then what about are we still waiting on the chipping?
Chipping is next. I gave you two examples of chipping. One would be just to add it to the general animal ordinances, and that would say something similar to any dog that has been impounded by the city shall have an identifying microchip inserted under its skin, and its owner or custodian expense prior to being released to the owner or custodian. Or, which I saw more frequently, is they are attached to their vicious dog ordinance, and that says basically a dog deemed as vicious animal under this subsection shall be microchipped, and then it gives the same language as the first one. So one is generally if it gets impounded, say your dog is at large loose, we take it out to the vet center, it will get chipped. before it's released. The other one is if we deem that dog vicious, that those dogs will be released. I did make a note at the end of that. I talked to Zach Vosberg, and the cost of that is about $75 for a small animal. He said you do have to register the chip with the manufacturer, and if you don't register the chip, it won't read nationally. They do keep a record of those chips here at the vet center, so they'll know if it's a repeat offender that goes out there, that whose dog it is. But if it's a dog from outside of town and never got registered, we're not going to know.
So what are your thoughts on maybe going with the example 3, just dog in other towns or even other counties?
Yes, that would be the best.
And then vice versa, if they had one, like Pat said, that, you know, that dog disappears for a year and then so-calls comes back and they said, oh, this ain't that dog, this is its cousin or whatever, we would be able to identify that through the microchip.
Yep, and even if they aren't registered, we would know if it got deemed vicious here that we inserted the thing, and
Yep.
he should have a record of it. So yeah, that'd be the best. Example 3 is the most common way cities are taking care of this.
I think Mason City must have example 1, because any dog that's brought in gets microchipped.
So at $75 a pop, plus a little extra, who pays, I mean, the owner is supposed to pay for it.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
Or they
Ultimately,
or they just abandon the dog and don't get
you're
it.
right.
So,
So they're not allowed to pick up, we do already have, they already get rabies vaccine. We require that before they get released to the public. So they have to pay for that, the boarding fee, and now the microchip. So there will be quite an expense every time the dog gets loose.
I guess I'd like to start out maybe with example 3 first. See how it goes, and if we have a lot of dogs running at large. I mean, no matter what, if you have a dog running at large, it doesn't cost anything to run the thing over its
Right.
neck and see if it's
And we
chipped.
have been, it's been successful in a couple of cases, but
Yeah, and I think part of the key is making it hurt a little bit, you know. It's the owner's expense, not ours. Eventually, like Mark says, sometimes it becomes ours, but that's part of getting your dog back, if you want him back. And I think that's just the way it should be.
But if it's a vicious dog that you're gonna put down anyway, you're not gonna get it chipped.
no. And we'll get into a little bit of the vicious, if we're done talking about the microchipping, we'll just transition to the vicious dog.
I got one more question.
Yeah.
Have you had some that have repeat offender dogs? Because I had one that I got a few years ago that was,
It's
I
always
ended
the
up
same
rescued,
dogs.
that was, they got to the point where they couldn't afford to bail the dog out because it'd been on the loose so many times.
There is an occasional responsible owner that a dog gets out, but typically 9 out of 10 times it's repeat offenders.
Okay.
So when we deem a dog vicious and they have to either put it down or remove it from the city, how many actually take the dogs back and remove it from the city? Do they usually end up euthanizing?
It's about 50-50.
50/50? Okay.
A lot of them will find a friend. Sometimes they'll find a friend. Sometimes the friend doesn't want it. They might have kids. A lot of them recognize that their dog does have a problem and they will just euthanize it. So I'd say maybe 60-40 euthanize.
All right. And then moving into the vicious.
Going into the vicious dog. We are attempting to update our vicious dog ordinance and streamline the process and add a few extra safeguards into that. It would allow me and the police department to declare a dog vicious immediately as opposed to waiting for the next council meeting. We do have to allow in the current ordinance 72 hours for them to be served before that. So if it falls 2 days before a meeting, we have to wait 2 more weeks plus the 2 days, which we have run into problems before recently. It would also, we added the protections of, it would allow us to impound the dog immediately pending an appeal. It doesn't take away their ability to appeal my decision. It would still go to the council for them to make the ultimate decision if they chose to appeal it. A lot of the owners, I talked to them, and they don't necessarily want to appeal it, but under the current ordinance, every single dog is going to come here for a hearing. So that would eliminate that, allow us to have a little bit quicker response and manage that a little bit better, in my opinion.
I would say like for example, this month is a good example. We had a council meeting the first week because we moved a few things. That would just be all those days we'd have to wait and incurring vet bills for the owner and whatnot. So I'm really in favor of you guys taking care of it. And if there's an issue, we'll take care of it.
I agree.
I think that makes the most sense. I mean, that's just gonna expedite the process a little bit and hopefully help everybody out.
So I think the last 3 or 4 times that nobody showed up here,
No.
Right,
it's already been done.
yeah, so. So if everybody's had to take a look at the changes that have been made and everybody's agreeing, then we can move forward with updating our.
I'll talk with the city manager if we
Yep.
can just put that language from the chipping into the vicious dog and
So,
move forward.
yeah, what I would suggest is if they're okay with 56.05 changes, and the consensus seems to be that they want to add in the option 3 chipping language, we should have that, as one ordinance, so we don't have an ordinance and then another ordinance,
Right.
and then another one for tethering. So while the chief is looking into the state law on tethering, we will work with the city attorney on adding option 3 chipping into, so we'll get all these into one ordinance to have a first reading. So it's not gonna happen Thursday, but we'll
Right.
start working on that. So we're making progress.
Yep.
And Mark will look into the tethering state law, and then we'll start working with the city attorney.
And we're still working on other concerns. Those have not been forgotten too, that they have brought up.
Yep. All right, sounds like a plan. Next. I think you're still up.
Okay.
Okay, the noise ordinance revision.
We've gone over this a couple of times. I think we have it up on the screen. It's also in your packet. If we wanted to get a noise ordinance on the books to, again, address some of the concerns the community has had, and as well as you. Doug and I did some tests with the numbers that we have up here. We thought and found them to be fair as what we thought as we went and did the testing. Some examples are we put the car in the middle of the soccer field out at East Park, cranked the radio, and we could tell, we basically made it to where we would think a house would be and took measurements from those, and we thought they were all fair levels. We also, in reference to the food truck, we did do that one. That would have been in violation of the city ordinance, depending on the side of the trailer you were on, so that would have been addressed with that ordinance. Those are just some things that we've kind of gone over. As far as this ordinance would be complaint-based, so a neighbor would have to complain about this. The only ones that wouldn't have to be complaint-based are ones that, in reference to vehicles, an officer hearing a loud muffler, which there's a state code on also, would still be able to take care of any vehicle noise complaints. We would just need a citizen complaint to move forward on the others. We do have the meter already in our possession, so we've been kind of messing with that.
I was at my wife's company has food trucks once a week, and I was there just delivering something to my wife. Anyway, I did see one that the air conditioning unit of the building was louder than the food truck. I had to almost get right by the food truck to hear the generator, and I took a picture of it. I mean, it was really a nice, probably an expensive generator, but it was really nice, and it wasn't really too bad.
Yeah, every food truck I've now gone to, I've been analyzing their generator, and I think if you spend the money, you're gonna get a quiet one.
Yeah.
But-
I mean, this sounded like a a rough idling car, but I mean, that was the extent of it. So I hope they, you know, probably more efficient too if you run one that's a little nicer.
Yeah. And that's like when we talked about this before, you know, for the difference between, I went out and looked at this one down here at one point and took a reading off my phone in my truck, just listened to the radio, and eliminate normal level. And then I went down a block to where they're having the issue, and it's exactly the same. But I think there's a little difference than listening to music as opposed to a
Right,
for
right.
hours and hours and hours. So, you know, it's just, I think this is a good step for us to move
Right.
to.
And it's what you would call a nuisance.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, and food trucks are gonna be around. They're gonna come and they're gonna be here. So we're gonna have to, you know, do our best to control them, manage them, and live with them. That's kind of the way things are happening in the world, and this is the first step to taking care of it for us in our town. Any other questions?
But I want this to be a noise ordinance, not an anti-food truck ordinance.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what it says, noise, right there,
Yeah.
in quotes.
Yeah, and I
Doesn't say anything
think
about
that's why
food
we
trucks.
went with strictly numbers.
Right.
Kind of takes
Yeah.
the officer's
That's exactly right.
decision out of it. It's either it is
It
too
is
loud or
isn't.
it's not.
Yeah,
Yep.
good, thank you.
We've had,
Thank you
we've
very
had
much.
issues
Yep.
with nightclubs before, and, this just helps out with that too.
Yes, I would
Thank you,
agree.
Mark.
Could you run that,
do you say?
repeat that, Barry, please?
We've had issues with nightclubs before with noise ordinance, and, you know, this just works with that also. And I want to thank Mark for taking care of it.
Absolutely. Yep. All right. Any other discussions at this point?
Will this be on Thursdays?
Possibly.
Say, do we gotta-
There's no more changes that need to be made, right, Mark?
No.
So we'll try to get this on for Thursday.
I have a question though. Have you been contacted by anybody about the noise at the airport?
No.
Okay, I have been, and they're annoyed that the plane flies over their house and makes a lot of noise. Well, the airport's been there a long time, and they've got a job to do. They do it at 6:30 in the morning. They spray whatever they spray, or they seed, or do whatever. And a lot of it depends on the wind that day. If it's windy this way, you go that way. If it's windy that way, you go that way. I think they're kind of up against a battle on that, because I think that's more FAA than it would ever be imposed by what we could do. So anyway,
And
I've
not
been-
only that, like trains
Yeah,
come by,
And
Yeah.
and street sweepers.
those things are, city operations and things like that are specifically mentioned in here as exempt.
Yep.
Yeah.
so I don't know how you'd, anyway, it's,
Yeah.
I
Can't take
don't
the
think-
planes out of the
I just
sky.
don't think she's gonna have good luck with it.
All right, so I think we're good on the noise.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for tag teaming that, and Mr. Tar
Round two.
just talks about the Heartland asphalt transverse crack repairs.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. If you guys remember back, it's been some meetings now that, and I believe Councilman Lamos brought up the speed bumps in some areas where we had some real severe transverse cracks going across the roads in a few areas. And in taking that list, I asked Heartland Asphalt to take a look at this now while they're gonna be here doing some paving in the next few weeks. We can typically save on some mobilization. There's some cost savings as trying to attack those when they're in town. And so basically what I'm bringing to you is what that cost is associated with that. So that alternate one, I believe there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those cracks. These are full depth. They need to be full depth. There's no just kind of milling them off type thing, because quite a few of them had concrete underneath where that's also heaving up. So in talking with Heartland, the best way to attack, they thought, for more permanent repairs, to do a 6-inch patch on those, or to go deep. If they need to add any sub-basin on any of that, they can. But anyway, there's some cost associated with that. I just wanted to bring that up for your approval or not, because this was an item that we didn't, we weren't budgeted for, but they totaled up to about $15,036 to make those repairs for those 6 patches. So I'm just bringing it to you guys for an approval. I would like to, if it's possible, to get consensus even. Like I said, Heartland's going to be here next week, I would imagine, so they're looking for an answer pretty quick on this.
I'd like to comment on that.
Go ahead, Mr. Lamos.
I think, for that price, I'd put up with the bumps.
He said for
He
that
says-
price, he'd put up with the bumps.
Especially if we don't have any money budgeted for it.
Yeah, especially if we don't have any money budgeted for it.
I would tend to agree with them. Plus, if we make the roads too smooth, then people will drive fast on them like they do in the southeast. Seriously.
I was gonna say, it
That's
sounds
when
like
the
we need
problem,
speed bumps.
that's when the problem started. We redid the street, smooth,
Yep.
boom.
Made it a speedway.
Yeah.
And that's the problem too, what we have down the southwest. That's a straight shot to the county road.
These do function as a speed bump, because I know I slow down.
I know I
when
drive
get-
it every day.
Yeah.
I
when get
drive
to
slow.
But something we can look at budgeting
Yeah.
for in the future, if you
Yeah.
guys would sure like, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Now I
Yeah, we
got a
can-
good budget number.
Yeah.
That's right, we can talk about it in
Absolutely.
budget time.
Yeah.
If you guys want.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, we appreciate
I
putting
see
the numbers together for us, so at least know, but, yeah,
General
I'm
idea.
good, I'm good with the bump.
Go ahead, Barry.
Most of those, the curb and gutter shot anyway, so why, if we're gonna wait and budget something, just fix the whole road instead of high dollar patch.
Very good point.
I like that
Did you hear
idea.
that?
Yeah.
He said if we're gonna, if the curb and gutters wore out anyway, and eventually we're gonna replace the road, why patch it if we're gonna, and then go back and do it again, so basically paying for it twice.
A couple of those, Heartland had a little bit of concern on, where do you start, where do you stop? It is
Yep.
like remodeling sometimes.
Yep.
Okay,
All right, so we'll keep that
Thank you.
in our pocket, and we appreciate it.
all right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I just had a friend of mine just texted me a photo. They're going through their in-laws' stuff, and it was a revised code of ordinances for the city of Hampton, 1949, so I can't wait to read through that.
Yeah, that'd be good. We might be able to bring something back.
Yeah, they might be chipping dogs back then.
Just adopt the whole thing, yeah.
All right. All right, well, that concludes our agenda for today. Appreciate everybody's input and the work that the the staff has put into it. So at this point, we will go ahead and adjourn our workshop for tonight. Thank you. Before I get stuttering, call me Mill.
You're fine.
I know
You're
it.
good.